Greetings and salutations, friend, and welcome to the Manifest Design Experience, week 4. So in week 4, we've got 5 exercises that we are going over today. These are, let's see, who are we? Feeling attributes, voice attributes, the start with why framework, and the X factor attributes. So, without much further ado, we're going to be looking at about 50 minutes today. So hold on, dive in, double the speed of the video if you need to get through it. We're going to jump right into this. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and pull up my brand book that I am building. We can already see we're getting a lot of different pages in here. And I'm already looking at the Who Are We exercise. So, just a reminder, you are going to be working on your brand, and that could be your personal brand, your business brand, a product, a service, whatever it is that you're working on. It's your brand. It's what you're building an emotional impact around, and what you're sharing with your community, with your customers, with your potential customers, right? I am working on an idea brand, meaning this is not yet a product, it is not yet a service, it is an idea that I have that I've been wanting to kind of flesh out, and it's the perfect opportunity for me to take this time and flesh it out with you so you can see how this process works. It is a great process because it covers so many different things and really relies on you and your expertise and your knowledge to bring it to fruition. So while you work on your personal brand, I'm going to go ahead and work on my idea brand, which is a health resort, right? A series of health resorts for mind-body experiences. And in the last several weeks, I've worked on the customer idea, which was sort of this visionary teacher guru who wants to get away to a place. So we're kind of taking a different tack with today's exercise, Who Are We? It's much more of an exercise in building your internal community so that you can work with your external community. So this is working with people in-house, and that's actually the question right at the top says, imagine you're a new hire for your company. You show up on the first day eager to pitch in. You know very little about the company history, hierarchy, values, and culture. So you ask, what should I do to get ahead here? And so the idea here is to really create ideas, things, that values that you can put forward that will tell this person what they should prioritize to make they're working for your company better, to make the experience for the customers better. Because when you have an understanding with your employees of what is expected of them and what you truly value to elevate the experience for your customers and your employees, then it's a lot easier to get everybody rowing the same direction, right? So I went ahead, and the exercise asks for 15. I got to about 10. Sometimes I have a little bit of trouble getting people beyond 8 or 10. So if you get 15, fantastic. If you're like me and you're like, well, I got this much, then that's enough for us to think about, right? And part of the reason that this exercise is really valuable is that we tend to think of like business values like excellence. Excellence really isn't a value. It doesn't say anything. It doesn't give anybody direction on how to reach excellence. It doesn't tell anybody what excellence means. You have to put context around that, which is the reason this exercise is really unifying values in a way that is different from the way pretty much business practice is used to doing it. Several of the businesses I've worked for in the past have had values like time, excellence, authority. But that doesn't tell managers how to manage their employees. It doesn't tell VPs how to manage the managers. It doesn't really tell the CEO how to manage the VPs. Everybody has their slightly different view, because when you narrow values down to that sort of one word nonsense, it doesn't provide direction. So this exercise is created to help you choose values, find values, align behind values that give direction to somebody, that tells them what you believe is truly important. So mine, just to share with you now, jumping right on here, let me get this something you can see. Who are we? So the first thing that I think is that we show up on time. I think that that's pretty important for any employee. Really, I mean, that's timeliness, but it's really putting it in a concrete, simple statement. We show up on time. And that can be kind of hard in this day and age sometimes. I live in Seattle, where a 10-mile drive will take you anywhere from a half hour to an hour and a half sometimes. It's crazy. Number two, we keep our work areas tidy. This is a big thing for me personally, and the people that I work with and work with me. Um, I believe in tidiness. You can get messy. You can throw things all around. You can create chaos. But at the end of that, you clean it up. You tidy it up. You make it nice. So when you come back the next day, you start from scratch again. It is actually much easier for the mind to come back to the empty space and to continue to work or build or do the next step of anything when you've cleaned up the day before, because it pulls out all the pieces. It resets the parameters of the neocortex. It resets the parameters of the reticular activating system, and it allows you to come and approach something you've already started in a way that's easier to pick up and continue. And then if you're done, you're just cleaning up anyway, right? So we keep our work areas tiny. The next one, I'm going to figure this out eventually. We focus on relationships. I think that's much better, more direct guidance of value than, be kind, be nice, be respectful. We focus on relationships has a lot of contextual things going on between customers and other employees and managers, right? We focus on relationships. Um, we maintain the magic. Again, I'm building this idea of a health resort that is, I'm using attributes like magical and mystical and fantastic and metaphysical, things that are mind-body sort of connections. So we maintain the magic. I view that a little bit like Disney. To them, when you're in the park, the employees there have to maintain the magic. They are trying to create an experience for the customers that is outstanding, and they do that by maintaining the magic. And I think that my employees, my customers would really appreciate that the magic stays during the entire experience. We schedule our work and work the schedule. So at first I wrote we schedule our work and moved on to the next one. But then, because how do you get stuff done? You have to schedule it, you have to time it, you have to make sure it's appropriate. And a lot of managers really don't know how to teach that downwards these days. And schools, I don't think, really teach that too well these days. So we schedule our work is great because it tells you, work with somebody that will help you organize your day, organize your tasks to do them. But then you work the schedule. That's what gets it done. You work the schedule and things move forward. Talk about moving forward. We take time to play. That's an important one to me. We take time to play because that's not just making time to play. That's we take time to play. We need time off of work. We need time away from things to reset, to recalibrate, to hone in on ourselves and our goals and our dreams and our wants and our desires, so we know when to shift, when to pivot, when the world is throwing funky energy our way and we need to stand strong or just move with the stream of whatever's going, right? So we need to take time to play so that we understand ourselves better and can bring more of ourselves to work, to relationships, to all the things that need to get done. We need that playtime. I really deeply believe in that. We make time to solve small challenges before they become big. That's something I really believe from the advertising and marketing standpoint. I ran into multiple projects and small things that if they didn't get done, if they weren't accomplished, if someone didn't make the time to do those things, then they would blow up down the end. And maybe that same kind of idea. Maybe you faced that sort of task before, that thing that just seems so small and easy, but unless somebody made the time for it, unless they took it and they scheduled it and they made the time, it wouldn't get done. And later on, it was just the task blew up. So that's another. These are all big ones to me. I mean, this is the reason I wrote this list, right? These are important to me, and I think that if I'm building this sort of health resort, mind body place, that like these are the sorts of things I would like my employees and my customers to know that I value, and that's the purpose. Like I have good direction around it. The next one is we embrace the mind-body relationship. So the people that work here, the people that come here, the people that spend time in these places, they understand that there is a connection between the thoughts that we think and the reactions that happen in the body. And that by thinking better thoughts, we can actually create better operations in the body. And that's like the type of teachers that I would want to bring to this place, that are, Bruce Lipton, Joe Dispenza, Dawson Church, Chris Duncan, um, Gary Flint, maybe even. These are all people that understand the connection between the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, the superconscious or quantum mind, and the body, that there is some level of resonant things going on in that. And, you don't have to believe that. This is me and how I'm trying to set this up and imagining this entire thing for this particular idea. Number 9, we support our guests' journeys. So that comes with the idea that when the guests are coming to this location, whether they're the teacher or the students or just people coming to relax and enjoy the time, they are on a journey. They are on a journey to escape from their lives. They're on a journey to reconnect with themselves. They are a journey to rebalance, to focus, to find, to search. Like, all of this is an inner journey. We are on a constant inner journey, and sometimes outer journey to find ourselves and to find our place in this world. And so I think that, just sharing that we support our guests' journeys, plural, shows that we recognize that is the purpose of this location. We recognize that there is a purpose that pulls things together. And this gives, that gives perfect direction. Our guests know that we are there to support them in their journey. And it gives our employees knowledge of, oh, okay, this is our focus. Again, we focus on relationships. We support the guests' journeys. Like, all of these build on one another. And the last one, we are grateful. Gratitude is a huge mindset that shifts, wow, everything, right? I'm sure you've experienced this in your life. When you recognize the gratitude in the moment, it actually changes your neural chemistry from looking at the past or complaining about the future, choosing contrast, choosing negativity. Gratitude, thankfulness, appreciation, it shifts the way that the mind works so that it starts looking for more opportunities for gratitude. So I feel like that's really important to include in this entire list, is that we are grateful. So that's my top 10. I would love if you shared your top 10 or even your top 5 within the group, just so we can hear, what sort of ideas are you throwing out for your employees, for your customers, that would help them understand what you prioritize, what you value in terms of how you run your business. Right? It's kind of a fun way to think about these things. It gives a lot more direction. It really, this is the sort of thing, like, this list is the sort of thing that pulls together a community, because people who can live by this and understand and respect these values, these guides to how they would behave as a boss or an employee, or even a guest, it gives direction to what we value. And when you value the same, that builds community. Cool, right? Love this. Let's go ahead and go on to the next one. And the next one is the feeling attributes. And we're doing a lot of attributes. I'm trying to mix the attributes exercises up with these other exercises, because otherwise it can just get kind of dull to go constantly brainstorming words, and you start to repeat words. But when we break it up with other exercises, it gives your mind, your brain, an opportunity to think of something new and different, which creates different neural networks, right? The more that you can think different and learn new things and shift and change and go back and forth like that, you are radically changing the answers that would have come easily before, now still come easily, but now you've got others that add on to it. So that's why I'm trying to mix these up. So the feelings attributes, the whole idea of feelings is that Marty Neumeier, who wrote the book, The Brand Gap and Zag, he's considered like the ultimate brand guru at this point. And he says, look, there is a feeling that brands create for their customers. And really, when all is said and done, a brand isn't the reputation of somebody, because a brand can have an awful reputation, but the customers still love it. A brand really relies on those customers, their feelings toward the brand, their ideas, their hopes, their dreams. When they become part of that brand's community, it's trust, it's love, it's support. If you're a Nike person, you're really a Nike person. If you're an Adidas person, you're really an Adidas person. If you're really a Disney person or a Marvel person, you go in on those things. Like, deep, you embrace it when you really embrace that culture. And so that's what feelings are all about, is trying to define a culture, trying to define this feeling that is building in your customers. And it starts with satisfaction, it starts with trust, but then it builds into something more. So that's what we're that's what we're talking about today. And my feeling attributes that I came up with, I'm trying to make this a little easier to share for you guys. Feelings. So the first one, comforted. Right? If I'm going to go ahead and work with this idea of the resorts, I want my customers to feel comforted by the things I'm doing. The next one is relaxed. Yeah, okay. At home, mystical, magical. Do I want my customers to feel magical? I want the place to feel magical. I want them to feel, maybe magical is not a good one, right? Ireland. Okay. I tell you, write down everything that pops in your head. This is in the instructions. I say it out loud, and this is what happens with me when I put down everything. Sometimes it won't leave my head until I put it on paper. So that's what that is. Attracted, like drawn to this location, drawn to the experience that I'm trying to create here. Pulled, drawn. So it's like the idea of somebody is just like life is calling them to this place. Escape. Discover, odd. Ooh, odd is a good one, right? Not ODD, but AWED. Ah, not aw. That's my interpretation of odd versus odd. Thrilled. I'd love if people were thrilled. Excited? Yeah, maybe when they get there, I'm not sure I want them to be excited to go home. So you see, some of this is not successful, but we have to put it down to go through the process. We trust the process here. The next one is speechless, overwhelmed. I thought overwhelmed and I thought underwhelmed. I didn't write underwhelmed, but I put whelmed. So they end up coming and they don't go too high over the top. They don't come ender. They just feel like, yeah, that's good. So, you know, I'm not sure there's such a thing as whelmed, but that's sort of my idea. Peace. I would love that. They leave that piece. Centered. Recuperate. So if they're trying to recuperate, feel better about themselves, the mind, body, you know, heal the body, heal the mind in a nice place, that recuperate. That seems like it might fit. Family. I'm big on like having people come together and be part of their family and share experiences like that. Community, same idea. Camaraderie, okay, and fulfilled. So those are my words. I'm going to go ahead and choose 5 of them. And maybe you've got more words, maybe you've got less words. It's okay. The more that we do some of these exercises, you can repeat words. I may not have said that before. You can absolutely reuse words. I tend to try not to do that as much because I just like new words, but you can see I have repeated several words. So if I'm going to choose the top 5 feelings that I want to build in my customers, that I want to build in my audience, that I want to build, you know, when they're done with the experience, they tell other people about like how they're feeling about it. I'm gonna go with thrilled. Sure. Let me see here. Put that a little bit closer. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and circle magical. I know I have magical on other attributes, but I'm gonna go ahead and circle it here just because, you know, magical is a feeling. Like Disney, I think, is really great at the magical feeling. Peace, yeah. Centered, yeah. I guess fulfilled. If you're coming for a lecture, if you're coming for a group experience, you want to feel fulfilled, like filled with knowledge, filled with health, filled with nature, filled with great food, filled with entertainment. That seems like it's a good place to be, right? That seems like for a location like this, like a good place to really go and stay, build those feelings as people leave. So that's what I'm going to stick with. The next one is voice attributes. And I'm trying to pay attention to lots of different things here. So voice attributes, I got a bunch of these. So what do we've got? We've got, so let me walk you through voice attributes a little bit because they can be a little bit tricky. When you are writing something, you take on a certain voice. And the voice is this idea of the words that you choose, the order that you put them in, the grammar that you use, the pacing that creates in the reader's mind. And then there's like the tone, the tenor. Like, is it serious? Is it playful? Is it like really haute couture? Is it like there are words that can share these types of feelings? So when you're trying to create the voice, you are literally thinking of words that can describe the type of voice that not only encompasses the brand that you're building, but also is the right type of voice that intrigues your audience, intrigues your potential customer, who is the one that we've talked about last week. And actually, next week is all going to be like deep dive into customer. The whole next set of exercises are really a deep dive into customer. We're going to get into a lot of different stuff next week. I'm super excited about that one. So one way to think about voice, if you're having trouble with this exercise, is to imagine an actor or an actress or somebody famous that you honestly you think, wow, I would love to have that person narrating a documentary about my brand or just like on a commercial for me. So just to give you an idea here, when I'm reading these words to you, think about the idea of Morgan Freeman in his voice. Think of the idea of Ewan McGregor, because I love the tenor of his voice. And I also was thinking about Gerard Butler, because I don't know, I just imagined like this documentary showing this property and the mystical nature of it, and Gerard Butler when he is not his super tough guy, but more his sensitive, soft, gentle guy. So when I read these voice attributes, think about those three. Think about how their voices sound, the way that they speak. And if you're not familiar with any of those guys, turn on Netflix, turn on Google, and give a quick search and listen to the voices, and you can kind of hear some of what I'm going for, I think. And without writing, without actually going through that speech, going through that process, that would be the next step, is creating a sample of what the voice would sound like. So the attributes that I'm looking at were mystical. I keep coming back to mystical. Sagely, that was Morgan Freeman popping in my head. Like, yeah, he just sounds so sagely. And attractive. That's the next one. Attractive, resonant, deep. Yeah, that's that Morgan Freeman. Insightful, helpful. This is when I started thinking a little bit more about like Ewan McGregor talking about this property. Helpful, supportive, new agey. He's Obi-Wan Kenobi to me. So like, I feel like he'd be like the Jedi for the property. Respectful, a little bit secretive. There's something about his voice to me in particular that feels a little secretive. And when I started thinking about what would the voice of the brand be, maybe it's this is a hidden secret and not everybody knows. And when the gurus and their students come here and they spend time here in nature and see everything going on, it's like a big secret and you don't want to share it too much. So that's kind of where I went with that idea. The next one is upper class. And I don't know, I just started thinking like, well, I guess that's the influence of watching on Netflix Bridgerton, like the tea drinking society and all of that sort of thing. I thought upper class a little bit, maybe just in the way it presents the voice and the tone and the things that need to get done. Like, this is how we are doing it, and this is what it is. Which is why I went to authoritative, and this is when I started to turn a little bit more into that Gerard Butler soft kind of voice, which turned into guru. Is the voice a sage or a guru? What's the difference between sage and guru when you're listening to your teachers, when you're listening to people talk about healing and the body and frequency and all of these different things? And so, gurus, they tend to be kind of humorous. At least is my experience of gurus, is they are humorous. They take themselves lightly. They're soft. They're kind. They're gentle. I thought maybe the word accent, maybe that has something to do with it. Playing with that in marketing is fun. Playing with that in text is difficult. Inviting, yeah, absolutely. I want people to be invited. Caring, teaching, that's a good one. Guiding, steady. So in other words, I don't want a voice that is, well, I know, for example, when you're listening to this, I tend to speak very quickly when I'm excited and I'm getting a thought out. And then I also speak a little bit slower as I try to think my thought and then translate it to my mouth. For me, steady is a big thing because when I was much younger, I stuttered. So some of my thoughts come very quickly and some of my thoughts are very jumbled and I have to take a moment to speak at a better pace. So steady is a good idea for voice when I'm sharing it outwardly, because it is a fair stream of information, I suppose. It's my perception here, and that's okay. Attractive, yeah, I want an attractive voice, and that kind of went to male to me. Again, I'm thinking more along the male lines. Um, if you're a fan of Diane Gabaldon's series, they have the Scottish guy. Um, I sort of picture something like him in the Scotland Highlands, and roguish and broguish and something interesting, but there's kind of a male voice behind this whole thought process for me. That doesn't mean it couldn't be female, and it really depends on your brand and your customers that you're going after. Trust, yeah, it should absolutely build trust. This should be a voice with words that help build trust and support and connect, share, pull, drawn. Like, really, it's something that a voice and words that help draw you in and make you interested in what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and choose 5 here. And my 5, I think, are going to be... I'm going to go with gentle. I think gentle is good. Steady. See, steady means something to me. When I hear voices that are unsteady, when I read things that have an unsteady or very staccato musically, like versus da da, which is legato. Staccato is sort of the opposite of steady to me, and that makes me jarred. Like there's an effect of very quick, rapid speech, or it feels very salesy, and I don't want that. Let's see here. You know what? I'm gonna say secretive. That there's some thought in there, that voice, that come on in, join us, experience this crazy fun place. Steady, secretive, gentle. You know what? Authoritative. I'm gonna go with that. And I'm gonna go with mystical. There's something there. Mystical, secretive, authoritative, but gentle, right? And that to me, those two kind of speak to the guru idea, and steady. So it's a very nice, stable speech. And I think that sort of pace, that sort of countenance, that sort of sound, and I'm still, just because I circled these 5, by the way, does not mean I can't use ideas like deep and resonant. I can still use those ideas in building this brand voice and building this persona for what this embodies. It just means that it's not the primary ones that I'm going to build it off of. And this also, I'm not sticking with a proper male or female. This allows me to shift and change depending on the audience. We only did one audience avatar so far. Maybe you've got 3 people that are really your target audience. Maybe you've got more than that. So that's something to think about. I'd rather not play one way or the other on this if I can keep it a little bit more open, because I've only done one avatar idea so far. So where are we? We are about a half an hour. We've got 2 exercises left. Right on. We're doing awesome. I hope you guys are doing great. If I'm just going to do a brief moment here to say, if you're having trouble with any of these exercises, if you are finding them super helpful and getting really clarity, I'm building some confidence for you, I hope, in what you are doing and the direction that you're taking your brand. You can start thinking more along these lines to apply this to marketing. When we get a little bit further into the customers, a little bit further into the process, you can really start mashing up all this stuff, and it becomes a really dynamic shift for what you're building, because you get basically your whole brand codified. You can share this with other people and say, here's what I am, here's how I want to sound, here's what I'm trying to build in my customers. My customers are these 3 types of avatars. So that's really what we're doing here. And if you need help with this stuff, if you want to work one-on-one with me, if you want to talk with me, chat with me, you can always apply for the program where you and I work one-on-one at my website, thinktankcreative.net. And we do this together, and we can also do this with you and your 3 coworkers, or you and your entire office. I don't recommend groups more than 15 because it gets a little bit wieldy. But if you've got more people and you want to unite your team, again, so everybody's rowing in the same direction, this process is fantastic for that. For businesses, small and large, the largest I've run with this process was 120 employees locally. They had 300 employees nationwide. And we just went with their executive team and they did all of these exercises. It was terrific. They learned a lot about themselves. They learned a lot about what they were actually going for, and each other, to pick apart the angles and say, where do we actually unite? Fantastic process for that. So the next exercise is called the Start with Why framework. And looks like, Start with Why framework. And I put down at the bottom the book Start with Why by Simon Sinek. I love this book. It tells Sinek does a great job really breaking down how the brain processes information based on neuroscience, based on behavioral science, based on marketing influence. And he really shares that, the brain picks up emotions first. Our body interprets everything around us through the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind drives 95% of our behavior, whereas the conscious mind drives about 5% of the behavior. Slightly less because there's other things that go into that, right? And so Simon Sinek basically said, look, we can ask the questions, but we need to present it in an order that helps pull people together and unite them. So I went ahead and wrote down his basic questions in an order that you can, that's the typical order. And when we typically say things, we go networking or sharing things with potential customers, we tend to say, what do we do? And, then who do we do it for? And it sounds so boring. And then it's usually, for example, I sell shoes to people who need shoes. First you come in and try on the shoes, and then we sell you the shoes. There's no why in that. So right off the bat, within the first 3 seconds, you go, okay, well, do I need shoes? No. And so part of your brain turns off because the need at that time does not match our observation of the world around us or who we're talking to. It literally is shifting the parameters of the reticular activating system, the pieces of us that compare all of the senses coming in to what we think is important. And because we don't prioritize at that point in time whoever we're speaking to us, which we don't, because we don't center on things like that. Our brains center on the feelings, the subconscious mind, the emotions, the united information coming in through our senses, through our body, which includes bacteria, viruses, all the things inside of us that actually make us run, right? Your digestive system is full of far more cells than are actually in your body. I think that's right. I'll check on that. But the idea is the subconscious mind is really a connection between all of this stuff fed up to the brain that then examines that information and says, okay, well, how do I feel about all the stuff going on? And then passes it up to the neocortex to say, do I need that or do I not need that? So when we meet someone and you give the typical spiel of, well, I do this, most of the time their brain checks out if they don't already have their reticular activating system saying, I need that. And even when they do have that, there is a sense of trust and respect and reciprocity going on that generally denies them the ability to connect properly, because they're looking for something else. They're looking for a gut feeling that says, this is the time, this is the place, this is my solution, I'm going to go with you. So what we're doing now is we're going to answer these questions in a way that we can then flip them into a good statement. And I went ahead and gave an example down here because, I mean, this is me. Like, this is how I tend to present myself at networking events. I find fulfillment in being a creative and strategic thinker. That's my why. I find a lot of fulfillment in my life when I can operate and enact on both of those sides of my being. And I help people that way. That's how I serve others. So I created a simple process to teach others how to think like me. That's this, right? And it's basically like playing games and discovering great answers. Because that's all we're doing. Every time you write out the attributes and all these different words and things, it's word games. We are just sitting here and playing. And while we are doing it, we are discovering great answers that helps you in your brand, in your business, identify with customers, understand more about yourself and where you're going with it. And when you're doing these with others for your brand, you are uniting. You're aligning, you are combining, you are discovering, you are revealing everything that's great about everybody's ideas about your brand. I help business owners position their brand with clarity for confident growth. Do you want this for your brand? So it starts with why. I find fulfillment in being a creative and strategic thinker. That's my why. That's what I believe. I believe that I find fulfillment. I feel that. So that's the reason for everything that I'm doing right now. It's the reason why I'm creating these videos and sharing the process. And then I'm creating a simple process to teach others to think like me. And that's really what you are doing. You are learning through these videos, through these exercises, how to think both creatively and strategically. By utilizing this process and trusting the process, you think creatively at each step, and as you move forward, it comes together strategically to help you in your business. So that's how I do things. And then what I do is I help business owners position their brand with clarity for confident growth. So really, I could go up to anybody and say, hey, I help position your brand for confident growth. And if they're not looking to grow, if they don't understand the value of a plan, of strategy, of creativity in the growth of their business, they may not want that. But when they hear that I'm creative and strategic, maybe they align with that. Maybe they understand the value of that. Maybe they really desire that. And so, every step of this process is, or of this particular framework, is meant to drive the next step, to get you deeper and deeper and deeper. And when you present it, it's really meant to grab somebody's attention, because it's not what they're used to hearing. And it's not all about you. It's about, or it's not all about just what you do. It's bigger than that. So, doing this now for the health resorts, let's see, the first question, what do you do? So, what do I do? I have a place of rest for mind and body. It's short answer, right? It's a health retreat. It's a health retreat for mind and body, where people can go and get away and rest. Well, place of rest for mind and body. Like, I don't really know a better way to say that. Who do you do it for? Well, I do it for teachers and students of mind-body metaphysics. I could just as well say mind-body medicine. I could say mind-body mindfulness. I could say, I'm trying to use the avatar, the person that I came up with last week, and it's really targeted at this. So the next one, can you say how you do it in 3 steps or less? Well, the how is really, it's a place, and how I help people rest from mind body is by providing a place for meetings, by providing a place for mindfulness, and a place for escape. And is there a special process involved in this? And there's not really a process in terms of having the resort, or the idea of people, a place, right? But they show up, they learn, they're cared for, and then they feel great. So that in and of itself is a process. It's their process of showing up and having the experience. So even if you don't have a process per se, a special process, you can still say, well, what are they experiencing day to day or week to week? What is the transformation that they are getting while going through this experience? And for me, they show up, they learn, they're cared for, they feel great. Hopefully at the end of the time, they leave and they're excited, and they're just, what were the words? My feelings, right? What were those feelings? I want them to be, I want them to feel fulfilled, thrilled, at peace, centered, and magical, right? And so that's my process. Show up, learn, be cared for, feel great. I love that. The next one. So the next one's tricky, because when you find your why, and when you write it like this, it is, I want you to dig deeper. And there's a whole exercise that we're not going to do in this part of this process, called the 5 whys. And what it is someone says, well, why do you do what you do? And then you answer. And then someone says, well, why is that? and you continue to ask why until you get to like the deepest level of, what is it saying in here? Why do I do this? So that's sort of what I want you to get to as quickly as possible. We do 3 whys here. And what I got is, I dream of fantastical escapes and places to share with close friends. That's why I'm creating this idea. That's the whole reason behind this idea, is I dream of fantastical escapes and places to share with close friends. Well, why? Why is that? Why do I dream of fantastical escapes? Well, I don't experience places like this, like I'm trying to think about. I don't experience those right now. And I want to dream of these. I want to have these kind of fantastical places and escapes that are mind-body retreats that where we heal and feel better and share experiences. So I don't experience places like this where people can gather and join energies. And so that's why I dream of these places, because I haven't experienced them. I don't currently experience them, but I would like to. Well, why? Why don't I experience places like that? Why don't I partake in this sort of thing? Well, I haven't found a group or location that suits what's in my imagination. So there's a little bit of challenge there, because I'm contrasting. I see what's out there and I see what's in here, and it doesn't feel right to me. So I want to create it. So I dream of these places because I'm not experiencing them, and I want to create one. I want to create the experience that is mind, body, teaching, escape, food, entertainment, all of this crazy, mystical, magical place for people to come together. That's my why for this idea. So the way that the questions are set is in the reverse order of the way that you do the Start With Why framework. With Simon Sinek's Start With Why framework, you start with why you do something, or why you believe that you do something, or what you believe about it that causes you to do it, and then how, and then what. So when I take those answers I just read to you and I flip them, and I bear in mind, I'm rewriting, I'm sort of like rephrasing as I'm writing this. I'm trying to figure out how to best share or encapsulate those ideas in a way that others will resonate with. So why? I believe, I want to get this on screen for you. I believe the world needs more places where the imagination is free and we can share this place and time with others like us. I believe the world needs more places where the imagination is free and we can share this place and time with others like us. Now that's sort of interesting. It pulls a lot of different things together about those why statements all at one time, and some of the other stuff. And how do I support that? Well, I'm creating a fantastical place in nature. I actually came back and added in nature because that's really important to me, and I forgot to write it first. Where people escape from the modern world, reconnect with mindfulness, and recharge. A fantastical place in nature where people escape from the modern world, reconnect with mindfulness, and recharge. That's how I am making a place for imagination where people can come together, right? I give escape, I give reconnection with mindfulness, which is self, and allow people to recharge and feel better. I hate it when you finish I don't use the word hate very often. I hate it when we finish with a vacation somewhere and you go back and you're completely exhausted from the vacation. You need a vacation from your vacation, right? There's so much going on, so much organizing. I think that using the imagination and getting awake, reconnecting, recharging is super important. So that's sort of where I'm going with this. And then the what is I'm building recreational health retreats centered around beautiful castles where guests stay in micro homes and have access to amenities like massage, tai chi, acupuncture, guided meditation, and live lectures from gurus and sages. So really, if I'm just trying to sell somebody on something, I have health retreats. And you can leave out the details, but centered around beautiful castles, because that's a whole magical idea for me, is a castle that is a central place for the food, where they get food and entertainment, and everybody just, and the lecture halls and all that kind of stuff, and everyone just stays in these micro homes around the property where they are built and positioned to just take in this gorgeous landscape and have access to the amenities. So really, all these whats are just the justification to the neocortex. They sound, and it's like, yeah, that sounds good, but imagination is very much a limbic trait, right? A fantastical place in the how is still a limbic trait. I'm teasing the brain to say, look, what do you imagine in this fantastical imagination place, place and time with others, to reconnect with mindfulness and recharge, like escaping the modern world. That says so much. And then the amenities, the what, supports that. So if you are into the idea of the imagination and sharing a place and time with other people and escaping, then this is the sort of thing for you. And that's how this works, is we just flip that whole thing on its head. After we get the answers, we flip the whole thing on its head and kind of rewrite it and juggle it a little bit and come up with it. So kind of like the who are we exercise. I would love if you post your start with why statement on the group. I want to hear, I want to see, I want to read, what are you coming up with? How does it resonate to you? Does it sound more fulfilling than a standard elevator pitch? It's exciting stuff. I love it. I love Simon Sinek's books, Seth Godin's books. They're really more about, creating brands that are, and they don't even talk about brands like I talk about brands. To them, it's marketing. To them, it's business strategy. To them, it's community strategy, growth strategy, content strategy. And when I hear all of that, I think, well, you're building the feelings that the brand is building in your people. So all of that stuff falls under brand strategy. And that's really what we're digging into today, is the brand strategy, the ideas behind it, the positioning of how you are sharing what you do with your customers and your audience. So last exercise is the X Factor attributes. And if you're an X-Men fan, if you're a superhero fan, if you've watched any Marvel movie over the last 10 years, X Factor is the thing that makes someone a superhero. It's what gives them their powers. It's what separates them from anybody else on the planet. And really, even if you have a whole group of superheroes, all of them have different powers. So the X Factor is the thing that separates one superhero from another superhero. And the idea behind the X Factor attributes is that branding, the idea of branding, is the idea that your brand, your business, your products, your services need to stand out from the competition. And the internet today makes it really hard to do that, because people are pretty much like consumers. When they jump online, they do a quick search through Google, through DuckDuckGo, through any of those search engines, and they pull up a whole list of companies that fulfill that search. And to them, at that point in time, the way that they view that search, all of those are commodities. And it doesn't matter how special you are or what you're doing or what you're sharing, any X factor, if it doesn't pop out immediately and share why you're different than everybody else, then the person searching is going to pretty much rely on whoever is the cheapest. And that is the death knell of a company. The moment that you start competing on price is the moment that you are competing to the bottom. And that is horrible. No business owner should have to suffer through that. So what we're going to do is brand. We're doing branding. Branding is finding what makes you different. We're finding what makes you the same, finding what makes you strong, finding what makes you weak, and then framing it in a way that it's interesting to your particular customer, so that you stand out, so that you connect with them. Branding is the art of standing out, and you can't just do it once. You have to do it with every customer. You have to do it with every single search. You have to do it for every single year moving forward on as your business grows. Branding is the art of constant differentiation, constantly sharing why you are different and worth more in value. And by sharing what makes you different and worth more, you can start to charge more. You aren't racing to the bottom because you are telling people, I have this process, I have this structure, I have these skills, and what these three things together are very different than anybody else out in the world. For example, I do branding, I do brand identity or logo design, I do design strategy, and I do RTT hypnotherapy. And all of those together are what make the manifest design process work. It's the idea of uniting a brand, helping it charge more, helping it stand for more so that customers pay more. And that's branding, right? That's the act of branding. And then creating a visual symbol and designs for your products, your marketing, your packaging, your website, your building, even maybe internal design, signage design. Everything flows from the original concept of you standing out on forward. Everything builds off of that foundation. That's the reason we wanted to really create a strong foundation in Guide 1, right? So everything builds off of that. And it's just to the point so that you can do everything else. It flows right on through easily and you stand out. So let's jump into the attributes. So my X Factor attributes are the thing that I think makes these resort properties different, stand out, and be unique and fun. Castle. Pardon me. That's been a central concept of this idea, the theme. It just keeps moving forward. It's kind of cool. Integrated, meaning mind body, meaning service, meaning education, meaning teaching, lecturing, gurus, meditation, all of these amenities that I think would be really good. A farm. I really want the property to have a farm, to be growing food on property so people can actually see and participate in the life cycle of food. I'm not talking animals. I'm really just talking a soil farm here. But there's something about the energy of growing for food that when you can use it in the restaurant on site, there's a reciprocal energy with the land and the property that really, it's something awesome. Micro homes. I don't know any other sort of resorts that have micro homes scattered around the property in different locations. So, I mean, that could be a really unique thing. Resort, there's lots of different resorts and types of resorts. I don't know that that's really an X factor. Community, okay. On-site, again, just get the words out. We are basing on quantity, not quality. We can always judge them afterwards. You have to get it out of your brain first. On-site, everything, my idea is everything's on-site. Everything's within this perimeter. Which, village, the idea that this whole resort is its own village, that sort of appeals to me. I don't know if it's different than other health retreats or health resorts or health anything, but it's something that appeals to me. Nature, I absolutely think that's important. Gurus, authors, experts, contrast. When I'm thinking contrast, actually I did it right below. Ancient, like castles to me, I don't know, ancient. But versus modern, like I kind of picture the micro homes. Micro homes are very modern, and if you get a decent little architect to create a structure in them, they could be very modern, very neat to live in, to stay in. But the contrast of those versus the castle and the ancient kind of nature of that, there's something there. The contrast makes the brain sparkle, right? I've said this before. We look for contrast. We notice contrast. So there's every time I find points of contrast in my words, I'm like, ooh, there's something there. Energy, yeah. Frequency, magical. Education, magical. That could work really well. Again, I keep thinking magical and Disney, but this is so far from something that Disney is doing that maybe that's a good word for my X factor. Educational, sure. Awe, yeah. Inspired, awe-inspired, okay. Even when I look back at these words later, I'm like, really? That's what I wrote. Like, you got to get it out of the head. If you don't get it out of your head, it sticks and it blocks other words from coming. So just write it down. Focused. So once you get there, you're focused on the tasks. You're focused on what you're doing, your lectures, your teaching, your growth, whatever that is. Growth being the next one. Elevate, reset, and mind-body. So I'm going to go ahead and choose 5 to me that are the most important to me. Things that stand out. You know what? I'm circling castle because to me, it seems like a central theme, a central concept for this whole thing. And I'm going to circle village. I don't know how that works in yet. And ancient and modern. I love that. I'm going to go with magical. I know. I've used magical before. I don't know that it's going to be the final attribute for X Factor, but it is something that is sort of interesting, that is different than other experiences out there. So my 5 for X Factor end up being castle, village, ancient, modern, and magical. Um, you're entering a modern, magical village with an ancient castle where you will recover your mind body connection and feel the blessings of community while staying on the land. I don't know. But I mean, you could see how these words come together and start to create an image. And this is the last of the brand attributes that we're talking about. So we will return to these after we get through next week, after we get through the customer exercises, after we get through talking about some of that. We'll come back to these and actually think about the attributes just a little bit more. Once we know more about the customer, once we put them a little bit more in mind, empathize with them, build our knowledge base, ideally we would interview at least 50 potential customers to understand like their positions and their mindset and their psychology and their psychographics. You heard of demographics, which is like age, location. Psychographics are things that they enjoy, appreciate, are grateful for, and look forward to in their lives. It's a really powerful motivator for brand and marketing. So that is the last of the exercises this week. That is the last of the exercises for the brand building. Next week, like I said, we are starting on the customer portion of this. There are 3 primary pillars to the manifest design experience. They are the brand, the customer, and the priorities. So after we figure out the brand, we work on the customer. While working on the customer, we start to think about what they really need, what their experience is, and really their whole journey to find us, whether it's searching online or being referred through other people, the places that they might find things. This is so exciting. I love building these ideas with you. I love reading your responses. I love getting your messages, talking about how much you enjoy the process. There's only one of you actually who's actually been through this entire process. That's Jo, and she is back again. She's in the group, completing it, learning new stuff this time, I hope, because these are slightly different exercises. When we're working one-on-one, we can move faster. They aren't quite as formal. This is much more formal so that all of you can be in the same place, moving forward at your own pace, working on these worksheets, building your own brand books, taking the next steps in your brand strategy, and really the next steps in your business and how you view things and how you are building your future. That's beautiful. How the next steps in building your future. I love it. So if this process is too slow for you, we're probably about halfway through it at this point. There's about another 4 weeks of information we're going to go over, as well as a couple of weeks after that are extraneous exercises. It's not part of the primary process, but you know what? They're fun. They help you think about stuff a little bit more, so we're going to go ahead and do those. But we're about halfway through right now. If this process is too slow for you, if you are building your brand, trying to get your website up, trying to move forward with your business, your product, your service, something out into the world, if you're looking to create a new logo, I am available for one-on-one in this entire process. You can sign up for the just a quick Zoom conversation to figure out really, are we right to work together? Is this process right for you? At thinktankcreative.net, thinktankcreative.net. And you just click a button that says schedule your interview, your accept, whatever that looks like. It just opens up a window where you can schedule your time and we can chat and see if this is actually right for you. And if you have questions, please post in the group, write me a message, post exercises that you might be stuck on, post your answers. This really relies on you participating, sharing your answers, sharing the results, and getting it out there so the group can see what you're doing and give their answers and give advice and give perspective, because these exercises work well one-on-one. Well, actually, these exercises work well by yourself. They work better one-on-one, where there's somebody else that understands the process and can bounce ideas with you. These processes work amazing when you have a community, a group, a team collaborating on answers and creating alignment and unity to move forward. Because the strongest thing you can have in your company is clarity in moving forward, confidence that you are all on the same page, and joy because you've codified how this stuff looks and sounds. And moving forward, that is your strength. Thank you so much, and I will catch you next time. Take care.